pointing to the heavens?
I'm pointing to the moon, and I'm going to the moon.
How do you plan to get there? In that box?
Not my box, my spaceship.
Well, it takes a lot of hard work and determination and a sense of adventure to get to the moon. Have you got what it takes to make it happen?
I've been dreaming all my life of going to the moon, ever since my grandfather encouraged me to look to the heavens.
Then let's stand by to count down your rocket launch.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff of Endeavour.
Herrington, astronaut extraordinary and the first Native American in space. John, you've actually been in space.
Yes, sir.
What was the re-entry like? Was it?
It wasn't as tight as that box. That was real exciting. It was pretty dynamic, very fast. When you're about 200,000 feet above the Earth, the clouds actually look like they're going by incredibly fast. And I felt really, really heavy coming back from space. It's like somebody who dropped a bag of potatoes on my head. It was hard to stand up. It was tough.
How many times did you do that?
Went in space once, hoping to fly on space station, but wasn't able to do that for some medical reasons. But I had a great time. Spent 2 weeks in space and did a just remarkable experience.
But more than 4,000 hours. Is that right?
We did about 4,000 hours of flying airplanes and spent about 330 hours in space. Not that I'm counting.
Come and sit down for a minute, John. We want to talk to you about creativity.
Sure. Another cardboard box. Great.
We only do cardboard boxes. By the way, I ought to explain something here. For those of you following the program, you were expecting to see Bart Connor, who is an Olympic gymnast. I am not Bart Connor. So don't raise your hopes about any backflips, it's just not going to happen. Bart is not well, but sends his love and apologies, and I'm just thrilled, not that he's not well. Though I have mixed feelings about Bart. So I love Bart to pieces, but it gives me a chance to talk to John Herrington, which I'm thrilled about. John, tell us about this. I mean, as a child, did you really look at the heavens and wonder one day if you'd ever get there?
Actually, the story behind the box is very true. It wasn't quite as fancy as that box. But I took a refrigerator box, and it was in the basement of a friend's house, a guy named Lynn Miller, my brother and I. Back in the 1960s, we were going to the moon, and it was on TV, and it was what kids dreamed about doing. So we had this cardboard box, and actually I drew circles on it, and I drew little dials, and I pretended to be an astronaut. But I never really thought it was something I could actually accomplish.
But why did you think that? Because lots of people look at the stars and don't dream of going there. What do you think it was for you?
I think it was right in the forefront of what we were doing. We saw it on TV all the time, and it was they'd bring TVs into the classroom to watch the launches, and these were our heroes. And these people I watched doing something absolutely remarkable were my heroes.
But tell us a bit about the setting there, your childhood. You were raised where?
Actually, I was born in Oklahoma, right down the street here in Wetumpka, Oklahoma. Wetumpka is a Creek word for flying water. I joined the Navy, and I fly airplanes, so it's pretty appropriate. But I grew up in Colorado, Wyoming, and Texas, so I did a lot of moving.
But was there any background in your family for this type of life?
My dad was a pilot. My dad actually had my first flying lesson when I was probably about 10 years old.
Yeah.
We had a small plane, but I took for granted the fact that I got to fly airplanes.
And he encouraged you?
And my dad encouraged me, yeah. But I didn't earn my pilot's license until I actually joined the Navy. But I had this experience with aviation and this love of flying from early on.
And what was it like, that first launch into space?
I was laying on my back about 30 seconds prior to liftoff, and I thought, I'm actually going somewhere. I'm actually going to space. But you're so focused on your job. I sat on the flight deck with the commander on the left and the pilot was on the right, and I sat in the middle. But the minute the engine's light, the vehicle shakes pretty violently. But you have a job to do, so you can't go, oh wow, this is incredible. You got to do your job. About 8.5 minutes later, your stuff's floating. So this magic is real. My book would actually float in front of my face.
And what was that flight? What did you get to, so to speak?
STS-113, the Space Transportation System, because it really is, you go up and you come back on it. To the space station, myself and another gentleman actually installed a large truss. It's a large piece of a metal frame on the outside that holds these large arrays or panels that actually cool the space station. And these are actually built in Tulsa.
And where is that, so to speak?
The space station is about 220 miles above the Earth. It orbits the Earth every 90 minutes. It's been in space for just a little over 10 years. We've had a permanent presence in space for over 10 years. Here's so little about it, which is unfortunate. It's a remarkable achievement.
It is remarkable. I mean, I was remembering this. I was born in 1950. I know this is a shocking revelation, but in 1950, there was no serious thought of going to space. I mean, people occasionally, there were some people who thought about it. But that was an extraordinary trajectory, wasn't it? It was an extraordinary period of human innovation that really began just at the beginning of the 60s, isn't it?
I was born in 1958, so we were born in the same decade.
Yeah.
1957, the Russians launched a little satellite called Sputnik. And that just absolutely changed the game. It did. It was now, how do we accomplish that? And the Americans got on the stick and started to do it. The Russians launched a gentleman named Yuri Gagarin in space in the next decade. And then we set off with Alan Shepard shortly thereafter, Navy pilot like myself. And then within the decade, we actually went from not having flown in space at all to having men on the moon. It's remarkable.
And how hard is it to become an astronaut? I mean, you don't just show up, do you? So I'd like to do this. Yeah. Can I go, please?
Well, I was in the Navy for 22 years. I was a test pilot in the Navy. I applied twice to NASA. I earned a master's degree to be competitive. I was a fixed-wing test pilot. I applied twice, and I got selected on my second application, and then spent 6 years in the office before I actually got to fly.
Before they, you just sat there for 6 years?
Did a lot of work. You support everybody else flying in space. I mean, astronauts spend so little of their time flying in space, the majority of their time making it impossible for others. That's what's about.
And what was the experience like of being in space? I know you had a job to do, but what was the experience for you?
It was a lot of hard work. You're so busy, and you have so many things to do in such a short period of time that you get on with it. But there's times you actually have to stop and look around and appreciate where you are. You'll like this one. In the middle of the night, I took a nap on the flight deck, and I was floating over the seat, and I woke up. I fell asleep over here, and I woke up over here, which was pretty good. But I was looking out the window, and I looked down, and I saw the city lights, and I thought, wow, what is that? And I realized it was London, and it was the coast of England and the coast of France, and it was all illuminated, so you could see the English Channel at night because of the lights on the coast.
Yeah, we have electricity.
Yeah, we do. It's just remarkable to see it from that perspective.
But it must have been that sense of perspective.
Yeah. It's to seeing the world from that perspective and seeing where you've been and places and people that you know are down there, but you can't see them.
Yeah.
So it makes you really feel pretty small.
Yeah. But does it change your perspective in that way? You feel different when you come back?
I think it does. Certainly coming back from space was an eye-opener for me because I'd never felt so heavy in my entire life. I came down and we landed and I couldn't, it felt like somebody dropped a large bag of potatoes on me and said, here, deal with this. And it was hard. It took about a week. I used to lay in bed and I'd swear that was the floor. Yeah, because it was. I mean, I could actually go to the ceiling and hang out in space.
Had you been drinking? Do they have a bar in space?
Orange drink in a bag, coffee in a bag, yeah.
But what do you think that space program's contributed to humanity?
Oh, wow, there's so many things that we take for granted on a daily basis, be it from quartz watches, the computer capability we have today, the fact that we have satellites, we can watch the weather. There's smoke detectors in your house, carbon monoxide detectors, little gold film, those thermometers you put in your kid's ear. That's a byproduct of the space program. We pull iodine out of water on a filter on the space shuttle. We actually make water on the space shuttle as a product of making electricity. And a guy took that technology, is using it to clean, being very creative, using it to clean water in Africa for folks that have contaminated wells.
Well, look, I know we're out of time just here, but you're running a breakout session later on called Rising to the Challenge. Can you tell us about that?
It's about how we bring challenge into our lives and how do you rise to that? What decisions do you make in your life? What point are you successful? And I've had a lot of decisions I've had to make. I've had a lot of challenges to rise to. And my dad always said it's a very short period in your life, and if you quit, you regret it. And so it's all about how do you rise to that challenge. I'd love to talk to more people about it.
And that session is later this morning, sir?
Yes, afternoon. Thank you.
This afternoon. Well, can I encourage you to go to that, and can I thank John Herrington on your behalf, Commander Herrington.